feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that. It's free, and you can watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety, and you can always go back and check us out if you happen to miss anything, of course, as well. JBandGoldwaterShow.com is always there for you, and you can find us on social media across all platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line. It will be full in about 8 minutes. David Cloninger with the Post and Courier is set to join us on much to do with South Carolina football, baseball, and basketball. A lot of news this week for all three programs. Dawn Staley, by the way, is at the Olympics, and they're set to go this weekend. However, as it relates to the Gamecocks, they more than likely, it appears, will have a couple of new friends in the league. That is the SEC. Oklahoma and Texas are set to join, the most recent reports tell us, and we're going to get into that here in just a couple of moments. Raphael Esparza at 12:30. We've got some Olympics betting odds to get to there. We've got over and unders today in our buy or sell segment leading into the college football season. We'll do this every Friday with four programs, two from the ACC and two from the SEC. Today, Tennessee, Arkansas, Florida State, and Louisville. And at 105, we've got Josh Pate. And you'll probably want to be a part of that conversation just like the others with 24/7 Sports. Josh, of course, hosts the Late Kick podcast, and he's got some of the best sources in the industry. So we're going to try to get Josh to really dive deep into this Oklahoma-Texas situation and much more as media days have pretty much wrapped up across the country. We'll get into our 2-minute drill in just a moment, but we can't go any further without saying good afternoon to the finest co-host and best producer in this state. Hey, Darren.
Well, hello, Mr. Bradford. So I'll say this. Roger Hoover yesterday hit the nail on the head. He said, you don't hear about these things, Texas and Oklahoma, early on in the process. You hear about them when it gets out, when it's pretty late in the process. Those were my thoughts. He put it out there very succinctly. And then when Kirk Bowles said this, prominent Big 12 source says Texas, Oklahoma move to the SEC is almost done. That's when you really listen. This is one of the most respected Big 12 insiders there is, college football insiders. When he said it, the needle really started to move. Brett McMurphy followed that up. This is happening. Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC. What's that mean and what's next? We got some time to figure it out or guess.
Yeah, we do. What will it look like? There are so many questions. How long have they actually coveted this? I'll add a piece of information here in just a couple of minutes to part of what we have been discussing about this the last day or so, as far as protecting interests go and the things that we don't know and stuff like that. There's the tweet, as Darren has it on the screen. If you're not watching and you're listening, it is a tweet from Kirk Bowles that reads like this. Prominent Big 12 source tells the American Statesman the Texas OU move to the SEC is almost done. They've been working, quote, they've been working on this for a minimum of 6 months, and the A&M leadership was left out of discussions and wasn't told about it, end quote. Move could become official in a week. There is some information, though, reported by Heather Dinich that is contrary to that. And again, I'm going to get to that here in just a minute. First, though, before we move forward, we always have a 2-minute drill to start off on Friday, and this Friday isn't any different from all the others. Yeah, a little bit.
It's busier.
You might be shocked to hear that the first note in our 2-minute drill is that all eyes are on Texas and Oklahoma, and those eyes are getting bigger and bigger by the second as it appears set for the Longhorns and the Sooners to enter the Southeastern Conference, maybe sooner than you think. More on that in just a moment. The Olympics officially begin today with the OPC. Check that out. I did tweet earlier, if you follow me specifically, I don't know, Darren, if you retweeted it or not, but if you follow me at Sports Media JB on Twitter, there's a sporting news article I tweeted out that has a great TV lineup for all the days of the Olympics. It has the U.S. and when they're playing in different sports and all that stuff. So you might want to check that out. And the Cleveland Indians have not been the Cleveland Indians for, I don't know, about a year maybe. And starting next year, they'll be the Cleveland Guardians. Recent news today, Tom Hanks narrated about a 2-minute video released on the Indians' Twitter page that they will move forward as the Guardians starting in 2022. From what I understand, that name comes from the Guardian statues that guard the bridge that crosses the Cuyahoga River in the Cleveland area. So that is what the future of the Indians looks like at the Major League Baseball level. Some other quick news on the college baseball front. Julian Bosnick officially returning to South Carolina. That was announced last night. And so it looks like Gamecocks probably more than likely are going to have their Friday and Saturday starters unless something drastically changes. But Will Sanders and Julian Bosnick will be the leaders in the clubhouse for those two roles, Darren. So that is really good news. And that, my friends, is your 2-minute drill. All right, so let's get into it here. We do have, again, David Cloninger coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So we're certainly going to get his input on this. But it appears Chip Brown also at Horns 24/7 as part of the 24/7 Sports Network. One of those who's been breaking a lot of this as well the last couple of days has basically all but confirmed that this is done, quote, barring any unforeseen developments. They will both, Texas and Oklahoma, join the Southeastern Conference. That is what a high-level source close to the situations has told him in Horns 24/7. So the grant of rights, this is an expression that's been used now a lot recently, Darren, something you're quite familiar with, obviously, as a broadcaster in the television industry with CBS. The grant of rights basically is an agreement between each school and the league that they participate in that forgoes their television rights to the network in which the league has a contract with, if that makes sense. So if you're in the Big 12, your TV rights are with Fox and
ESPN,
and ESPN, and so on and so forth. All these other leagues. So that's what keeps you in some of these deals. That's the case, it appears, in the Big 12, but they'll have to buy themselves out of their grant of rights if they would like to exit the league before 2025, which, according to math done by the reporters whom are covering this closest in those two states and others, is very near $160 million combined. Sounds like a lot of money. It's probably not as much as you would think, especially with those two programs, the institutions, the amount of cash that's on hand. And then also, if they enter the SEC, the amount of money that will be coming back to them by virtue of those TV deals, because those will also have to be restructured in the Southeastern Conference. So could it happen before 2025? Darren, I'd probably, if I had to put a number on it, I'd put it at 50-50 that it does. Because I'm one of those people that if you're going to do it, you might as well go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? And I know that there's about $200 million that stands in the way, but we all know at this level they can find the money.
Look, it's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner than later. I think you just said 25. It wouldn't shock me if it happens sooner than that. Once these things start moving, there's really no reason to hold it up. They'll figure out the money part. They'll figure out the hurdles that they need to get through. If the only hurdles when you're talking about Texas, Oklahoma, the SEC, and major level college football, if the only hurdles here are dollars, we can figure this thing out. It's going to happen sooner than later, if I had to bet.
Always. You're exactly right. They'll figure it out. I mentioned Heather Dinich and her reporting, and again, I know that David Cloninger is set to jump in here momentarily, but Heather Dinich has reported that the fact that, or the reports out there that Texas A&M was left out of the discussions, she is reporting that sources from the SEC have told her that is inaccurate, that A&M was left out of these discussions. Again, apparently this has been going on for quite some time. There's going to be a lot of information flying around, so we need to make sure that we focus on those bits and pieces that are correct. So we'll just have to kind of see where all this goes. But I have no doubt if Heather Dinich is reporting it, there's probably some truth in that. And again, but that is coming from the SEC side of things. This guy's been covering the SEC for quite some time, and the Gamecocks, fresh off a trip to Hoover, where better to be in July than the cool air of Hoover, Alabama. But there are other things going on at South Carolina, certainly. David Cloninger with the Post and Courier has carved out a couple of minutes for us here on this Friday afternoon. Hey, DC.
What's going on, Jamie?
Do you have anything to discuss these days, or is it just another boring July on your desk?
No, you know how it is, man. I mean, nothing like better than slogging through 5 hours on the hot interstate, coming home, and the phone's buzzing constantly about stuff that I don't even have anything to do with. Saying
Well,
like,
that's true.
man, Texas, Oklahoma coming to the league. I'm like, I don't care. I cover South Carolina. If they get here, just tell me when the USC plays them, you know. So, but, you know, it's the usual all-conference ballot and keeping an eye on the Texas OU thing. You know, of course, nothing's formal now, but apparently everything is reaching critical mass with that. The Texas and OU are saying that they're coming. And what the SEC does now will kind of be the question. Like, are they going to wait 4 years, or is this going to cause the Big 12 to immediately break up, and that way they get here quicker? What's going to be the deal there? So we'll see what all happens, but right now I got enough on my plate covering the Gamecocks, and it's going to be a pretty busy week leading up to preseason camp.
Hey, good news for you in the future. You might have a shot at heading to places like Austin and Norman to cover Gamecock athletics. I tell you what, though, you know, I'm not sure. Maybe one day he'll open up a little bit more about this. I have to believe it was a little uncomfortable for Greg Sankey the last 48 hours because he's been on every set. He sat in with Feinbaum yesterday. He knew he was going to be asked about this. He sidestepped basically every question. It appeared that Paul didn't really press him that hard yesterday. Generally, Paul is the guy who will press you hard. I don't know if it was like, hey, we got to, you know, I just can't say a whole lot more. I don't know what it was. But, you know, DC, before we get to the Gamecocks, you know, I want to get your opinion on it. I think everybody has one. My opinion is that every level of athletics and anything in life, we all have an interest to protect in anything that we do. And Greg Sankey's job as commissioner of the SEC, and every commissioner in every league out there, their job is to protect their interests. There are now reports out there that ESPN's reporting that the ACC was going to look in the future to add both of those programs to their league. And I mentioned to Darren yesterday, we don't know what we don't know. We have no idea if maybe the ACC or somebody else might have reached out, and that's what kind of got the wheels spinning on this. But it appears that the SEC is once again the league dog, and these two massive institutions will enter the league at some point in time. So your thoughts?
Well, I mean, first of all, Jamie, Texas has always kind of been like Notre Dame in that they think that they run everything, and when everybody kind of kowtows to them, they do run everything. So, you know, they've always had that ability, that money, that presence, that brand to say, hey, if we want to do something, we're going to make it so. That's why, you know, they were kind of the forerunner behind plucking 4 teams from the old Southwest Conference to form the Big 12. They were the ones who led the charge to say, hey, we're going to take these other 3 teams and we're going to the Pac-12, or I guess it would have been the Pac-8 at that time, and that fell through. And then, of course, they said, well, we'll stay in the Big 12, and then A&M and Missouri left for the SEC. So I have no doubt that they were, you know, the first ones to say, hey, here's what we're going to do, and they convinced Oklahoma to do it because look at it from a business perspective, Jamie. If you're Texas and Oklahoma and two of the most powerful brands in sports, especially college football, why wouldn't you offer your services to the best conference in college football, the biggest names college football being the SEC, because the SEC may not be looking for that, but they're not going to turn it down if it's presented to them. I mean, you have to do that as a good businessman and say, this just, really makes you. I mean, you already are the most powerful conference, but now no one's ever going to challenge you in that regard. Now, you do have to worry about what your present members think about it. But to me, as a businessman, you look at what it can bring to your conference first in the money, then you do about personal opinions. Now, there are league bylaws that say, you got to get 11 yes votes among the present 14 teams to take them. And Texas A&M isn't going to be one of them. They've made that very clear already. Well, are there going to be 3 more schools to join them? I don't think that there are. So it's going to be a case of like, listen, you hate to play the heavy, but with A&M, you say, look, you don't have to stay here if you don't want to, but I really don't think you want to leave, because where else are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
You going to go back to the Big 12? I don't think that they're going to want to take you, not after you've been bad-mouthing in the past 8 years. And where else can you go? So this is going to trigger a whole other wave of realignment, and we'll see teams, or conferences start cherry-picking the teams that they want until everybody's, kind of done and the dust settles. So, me, from a personal perspective, it's like everybody, and this is from also kicking a few text messages around the USC people, everybody's excited. Oh, man, let's go to Austin. Let's go take a football trip to Oklahoma. Yeah, that's going to be great. But in terms of actual competition on the field and fields, it's really tough to win football games in South Carolina now. How's it going to be if you have to look at Texas and Oklahoma every year?
Mm-hmm.
How's that going to be if they're going to be a hurdle to winning a conference championship or going to a major bowl game? And Texas baseball, Oklahoma softball. Now, there will be one built-in advantage to this, the fact that Dick Schaefer coaches Texas women's basketball, and if he comes back in this league, got to play South Carolina and Dawn Staley every year, I mean, he'll be like, really? I mean, didn't I just leave the SEC to get away from this? Because she'll keep paddling them just like she always does. That's the one advantage. But these other sports, it's going to be like, man, it's going to be real tough. And you think of the travel budget, but of course, everybody also says, but look how much more money you're going to get from your TV deal. You got $45 million this year, and that was after COVID. So you bring in those guys, and the present TV deal expires in a couple of seasons, everybody's going to be coming at you to line up everything. The Longhorn Network gets folded in to the SEC network. You bring in that revenue too. As a businessman from the SEC, it's a no-brainer that you have to do it. But you're going to have to have some unhappy campers, as you always do, and you'll just have to deal with it later.
You have to wonder what CBS is thinking right now, basically giving up their football rights on that Saturday afternoon window if this happens. Finally, look, I know that we need to cover the Gamecocks here with you, DC, and we're on short time today. But final, I guess, question on this from your perspective: Does this go until the end of their grant of rights deal, which runs through 2025, or in your opinion, do they find the money to buy themselves out and make the move as soon as possible?
Well, Jamie, I don't know what their particular situation is, but considering Texas has always been known as a money printing factory, I don't think it would be anything on their nose to come up with the exit fee to leave right now or to cover them. And plus, when you come right in, you start getting a share of the TV money. Now, maybe that makes everybody else's pie, a slice of the pie, a little smaller until the SEC's TV deal gets renewed. But I think the main thing they could look at is say, hey, we've presented that we're leaving. So if the Big 12 starts to break up, if other teams start leaving right after that, well, how are you going to enforce a grant of rights if the league's no longer in existence? Maybe that's what they're counting on. But that's way above my pay grade. It's just going to be a case of like, all right, let's see how this all goes. Because, I think that we all need to recognize, Jamie, politics is going to play a part in this too, specifically Texas politics. So that's going to be a case of saying, remember last time, I believe it was Ken Starr, who was the president of Baylor at the time, said he threatened to slap a lawsuit on A&M if they left. And the SEC said, we don't want no part of that. Get it settled before you come. And it went away. But who knows if that's going to go away this time.
So many questions to be answered. We got more on this ahead in our program. David Cloninger with the Post and Courier, 12:20 on this Friday afternoon, DC. As it pertains strictly to South Carolina, media days, of course, now over. Beamer was on the podium on Monday. The latest, though, coming out of Hoover is that 3 Gamecocks have made the SEC's media all-SEC squads. JJ Enagbare is the lone first-teamer. Of course, he's a defensive end for Carolina. On the second team, you've got Kevin Harris at tailback, and on the third team, you've got Nick Muse at tight end. But that's not the real news. Forget those guys and how good they are. Somebody in Hoover decided to pass along a vote for the Gamecocks to win the SEC championship this year in 2021, DC, which is the same number of votes that Texas A&M and Florida received. They both got one as well. Can you confirm or deny whether that vote was yours?
Well, I'll just say that my ballot is published right now on the brand new Gamecocks Now newsletter on the Post and Courier website. So if you want to take a look, it's a 2-week free trial. I said free trial, so you can go ahead and look it up for yourself. But I will say I was just as surprised to see that as you were. Ole Miss got a vote to win. Kentucky got a vote to win. And there are arguments to be made, like, well, things broke right and the division kind of cannibalized. I don't know what anybody could have been thinking, say, well, South Carolina's going to win the whole thing. I thought, But, it's media days. Maybe somebody wasn't feeling too well when they voted. Maybe it was one of those rush jobs they hit their own, but I don't know. But, I remember this happened back in, what was it, 1999, 2000? And Lou Holtz's response was, they told him somebody voted you for champion. He said, did they write it in crayon? So, who knows? It's media days, preseason honors being precisely squat. That said, it's one of the soapboxes I routinely climb up on. I know preseason honors don't mean anything, but if Kevin Harris isn't the first team running back after leading the league in rushing all last year, then who is? I mean, I looked at the 2 guys that made it, Tank Bixby and Isaiah Spiller, and then we'll look at the stats last year, like, yep, Kevin Harris above both of them. Don't know what's going on there, but I do have a feeling it was Kevin Harris, South Carolina. Okay. But, hey, whatever. It happens. It's a preseason honor. It doesn't mean anything, so it's not worth getting all riled up over. I do hope, though, that one person in particular sees that and takes it as a sub, that being Kevin Harris. Because if he ran for 1,100 yards last year in 10 games where there wasn't a preseason honor, I can't wait to see what he does. When it's like, oh, okay, people don't respect me. All right, we'll see.
I sure hope you're right. I've got a feeling that those inside that facility across the street from Williams-Brice Stadium will probably have that piece of information posted somewhere that's very visible for not just Kevin Harris, but those that surround him as well, DC. I mean, we're starting to talk a little football now, and I do want to get to some baseball and hoops with you before we let you run. But, everybody's pretty much evaluated all week Shane Beamer, at least the circles in this state have. I thought he was excellent on Monday. But when it pertains to the team, he feels pretty good about the guys up front on both lines of scrimmage. He feels pretty good about the special teams, and he's noted that his father's told him a lot over the years, hey, if you're good in the trenches and you're good on special teams, you give yourself a chance. So how good do they feel, and what type of chance do they have with what we know about is what they have up at those position groups and what's returning?
Well, Jimmy, I mean, I don't think they're going to take much of anything from the preseason votes just because as a school, South Carolina didn't even submit any linebackers or wide receivers and only one defensive back. And there's a reason for that. It isn't that USC dropped the ball. It's that who are you going to submit? I mean, what name out there stands out? And the answer is none. So I don't think that the team outside of Kevin Harris is going to draw any extra motivation for the preseason ranking. I think that they're all looking at it and say, hey, look, man, everybody expects you to be bad anyway. So in the words of Lou Brown, why don't you just stick around and give them all a nice big burger to eat? I mean, what do you got to lose? So I think they all feel very good about where they are. They all know it's going to be a very, very steep uphill climb, but they also know that you got to go out there and play them. And it's one of those that says, listen, everything might not go your way the first game, but that's a good thing because you're playing Eastern Illinois. Now, you're probably going to need to have everything together by week 2, but it's a long season, and you can get better as you go on. So now everybody's 0-0 right now. USC feels good about the coaching staff they have in place and the roster that they have in place. Yes, they would prefer to have more returning all-stars. Who wouldn't? But they just don't have that right now. They do feel comfortable with what they have, and to your point about the Lions, they feel very, very comfortable that they're strong up front offensively, they're strong up front defensively, and that by itself can win you a lot of football games. So just go out there and see how good they really are, and hopefully you can keep them all together for a full 12 games.
What were some of your peers saying in Hoover about Coach Beamer's hire and this program in general?
Yeah, it was kind of the same lines, Jamie. After Shane spoke on Monday, it's like, man, he's really good. I think that your guys have got a winner there, DC. I mean, I just don't know about that this year. And that was pretty much it. It's like, I think he'll get it done eventually. And that probably should be said right now because this roster is what it is, and they're coming off 6 wins in 2 years. But they like his passion, his enthusiasm, and his energy, and that really showed through. And it's what you want to see. You don't just want to go up there like Brian Harsin did and just jam her on for 25 minutes and not say anything of substance. I mean, he said, listen, yeah, okay, I know people picking them wrong, but that's why we're here. We're going to build for the future. So Shane's not going to write off this year's team. But it's like I wrote, I believe, on Monday and also in the newsletter, you have to talk about the future because you don't want to talk about the present right now. All you can say about now is how excited you are to be here. You don't want to go in and start promising wins because you don't have the horses to do it. And you really don't want to talk about the recent past. And you can talk about 2010, 2011, all you want to. That was a long time ago. So you can mention it, but your main selling point has to be the future. Now, that's working on the recruiting trail. You guys know that. But those recruits don't get here for another year. So you just got to go out there and say you're building hope. You're building promise. That's what you got to go on right now.
David Cloninger, Post and Courier, 12:27 on this Friday afternoon. DC shifting quickly to the Diamond. Gamecocks, I think, have officially announced Justin Parker as their new pitching coach. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the release in my email that they have officially announced Chad Calais, actually from Texas A&M, to replace Trip Couch, who's off to Arizona, but widely speculated that he is the official guy for that role. I'm not sure how much you've looked into either one of these two gentlemen. They do have pretty good track records, but I wanted to get your thoughts on both of these guys who will fill out the coaching staff for Mark Kingston.
Mark had to move quickly just because these guys that left, kind of were spur of the moment gigs. Skylar and me got a head coaching job. That you thought if it had happened, it would have happened much earlier, but it's a head coaching job. And Trip Couch went to go and join one of his best friends at Arizona, which only happened because LSU had a coaching hire to make. So it was kind of late in the game, so he knew he had to move quick, but he did. He got 2 solid guys. Again, following the Skylar Meade example, he hired a pitching coach from the Big Ten who's had a lot of success. And I had my doubts about Skylar Meade. Well, those doubts were alleviated, weren't they? So I'm not expecting anything different from Justin Parker, especially now that Julian Bostic is coming back and he's going to have Will Sanders right there with him. So that's a big part of having that. I don't know too much about Chad Calais. I know it hasn't been officially announced, but he is hired. And, he'll be a guy that they needed, recruiting guy, and he has a very big background in that from his days at Southern Miss and at Texas A&M. It doesn't hurt that he also has an offensive and hitting background. Now, he's not going to be the hitting coach. I think that needs to be made clear. But as every coach does, he's going to have input on it. So we'll see how that goes. They needed to get somebody in who can recruit right away. And if you look at some of the other candidates for the job, it was like, well, it wasn't a detractor on the public view, but it might have been an inside detractor that said, maybe not going this direction, let's go in this one. So we'll see how it works out. I think we all know, fellas, that the team next year, it's just going to be a bunch of these new recruits got to come in and play right away. And, with the draft, I'm sure you guys already know, like Brett Carey signed yesterday, Wes Clark signed yesterday. All those draftees, with the exception of Bosnick, were expected to go, and they will go. So that's nothing new on that part. It's just when the official announcement comes down.
And finally, DC, we'll wrap with some hoops. The Pro-Am is playing up in Columbia. Gamecock men have a bunch of guys in that. Some of them have been pretty special thus far. If you're in the Midlands area, it's always a neat event to check out if you can. Sendarius Thornwell. There's so many names that play in it every year. Kerry Rich and those guys do a great job. But I do want to talk about the ladies. You're gonna meet in about a half hour with the newbies, the little birdies, as Dawn calls them, to the women's basketball team. But Dawn, she's not even in the country. She's at the Olympics, and the women's team, the U.S. women's basketball team, will step on the floor here in just a couple of days. First of all, evaluate this group that's going to meet with the media today. Really looking forward to your report from talking with all those girls, but then also the Dawn Staley effect of the Olympics. The exposure this just continues to add to South Carolina women's basketball.
Well, it's great to have. Jamie, there's no such thing as bad publicity, but of course the pressure's on over there. Normally it wouldn't be even a concern. Like it's U.S. women's basketball, they win gold medal. Just telling them the day is. But they lost an exhibition game. It was their first one. They won all their other ones. And it's like, well, the team did have to get together for the first time or what have you. But, that was a little slightly concerning, but still nothing to really worry about. As for we'll talk to 3 of the 5 recruits today that make up the number 1 recruit class in America. Sanaya Fagan is actually playing on another Team USA, the under-19 team in the World Championships. And then Camila Cardoso, the transfer from Syracuse, she's actually doing university orientation today, 8 to 5. So she can't participate, which is disappointing. Because I said, why does she need university orientation? I'll tell her the things she needs to know. Here's Groucho's Deli, and here's the shortcut you take when you get cut off by a train. That's what you really need to know, right? But she's not going to be available, which is disappointing, but we'll get her later. So that leaves Bree Hall, Raven Johnson, and Sanaya Rivers. And, I wish this could be in person, but we can't. That's just the day in which we live right now. So we'll talk to the other 3 and just say, what's it feel like to be part of the number 1 recruiting class, and how is the team chemistry? I mean, with such a swollen roster, knowing that everybody came back from the Final 14, but I don't expect it to be a problem. And then, of course, I'm sure that they're all going to say that, they're going to stay up until, is it 12:40 on Tuesday morning? I think that's when Dawn's first game is, something that's like right. that.
Yep.
So I'm sure they'll all be staying up and, watching that game and getting to see Aja Wilson play. And let's not forget Alicia Gray. She's on the 3-on-3 team, and I believe they start play tomorrow. So they'll play their first 2 games tomorrow, and that's going to be another Gamecock in search of the gold medal.
I mean, Dawn is she's built a beast. I mean, she has built a beast. You could, Aja Wilson, you could argue is the face of the WNBA now, and Dawn certainly is one of the top faces in basketball, period, the end, not just college hoops. Just an amazing ordeal for them. All right, DC, we'll let you run on that note. I know you got to get prepped and ready to go to get to those ladies here in about 25 minutes or so. Before we let you run, though, one more time on this new deal with the Post and Courier, where folks can subscribe to this email list. This is a great gig, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's called Gamecocks Now, and it's pretty much a daily newsletter. We'll send you the links to all the stories that we print, but it'll also be a lot of my personal observations or stuff that can't get into the newspaper because of space restrictions or other things like that. But anything that pops up in Gamecock land, I'll have an opinion on it, and that's where you can get it. It's a 2-week free trial. The links are on my Twitter, DCPNC. If you're already a subscriber, you can get it for just $1 more per month. And it's 2-week free trial. And if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe to just that for $5.99 a month. And what will happen is you'll get pretty much all that stuff, links to all of our Gamecock and Clemson coverage. We will be having a Clemson newsletter once we get our new beat writer in place. But right now it's just kind of all the recollections from Hoover and about how Shane and Will Muschamp differ. And also I thought if USC had made a move a year before they actually did, I could have been listening to Mike Leach talk about South Carolina, at media days. But, that was stuff all covered last week.
Yeah, I know you guys are going to ask whatever questions you want to ask, so go ahead. That was fantastic. Mike Leach, what a treasure. What a treasure. All right, DC, in the words of, since you mentioned your opinions on South Carolina, in the words of Harry Doyle from Major League, sorry for having an opinion, pal. Looking forward to all of it, DC. Thank you so much, my friend. Have a wonderful and I'm sure now very busy weekend.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
David Cloninger with the Post and Courier. Great report there. Much more ahead on the latest on the Oklahoma-Texas situation. Josh Pate, again, will join us at 1:05 today. We'll have a deep dive on this with him and much more. How does this affect the future of the college football playoff? What does this mean for the rest of the Big 12? We're all thinking about it from the SEC side. How strong is the league and this, that, and the other? What led to this? Why? Why are they jumping ship? I don't think we have all those answers, but we sure can speculate. And one of the best out there to speculate certainly is Josh Pate. But up next, Raphael Esparza with mybookie.ag. Do you want to win some money? Like, in the Olympics or pretty much anything else that's going on in the world?
He made me money yesterday. That's how recent a time it was when his advice helped.
See?
Yesterday.
First-hand account right there from DG. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
I'm gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very last dime. If I wind up broke, well, I'll always remember.
It appears he's still in Nollins. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Josh Pate ahead at 1:05, thanks to DC. And now, southwest we go from where we are in Charleston, South Carolina, and that is where we find, generally in Vegas, like way west, but he's a little bit closer, Raphael Esparza with mybookie.ag. Hey, brother.
What's going on? Hey, I'm not there. It was monsoon season yesterday over there. They got flooding all over there yesterday. No way.
They got flooding where?
Flooded yesterday.
In Vegas. Vegas had a big rainstorm, and 2 inches to them is like 20 inches to normal people.
Well, we got about 20 inches yesterday. It just dumped rain over here.
Yeah. My front and backyard had lakes.
Well,
that means the pool got all ruined and all that, and
all the pool furniture got sucked into.
That means the help had to do a lot of work this morning. Your maids. I feel bad for them.
Yeah, the daughter was upset when I made her do all the work.
Yeah, figured that.
Pool furniture at my house is a blow-up pool and 3 or 4 fold-out tailgate chairs. That's what pool furniture looks like at my house.
Wait till those twins want a pool. Well, you'll be digging your own pool by yourself because just wait.
That's the goal, to put one in one day. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We need the money that Texas and Oklahoma are going to throw at the Big 12 to get out of there. This is everybody's following it, Raphael. Everybody pretty much has an opinion. Number one, what is your opinion? And the other side of that is, how will this affect future books like yours at mybookie.ag?
Well, now we can finally say it's not called college football anymore. It's AAA NFL. I mean, we can now scrap the word college football because now these athletes are getting paid for NIL. Now we're just bigger conferences getting bigger. Just scratch the word college football out. Just call it pro-am football, minor league NFL football, or something. Because if I hear someone call it college football, they are completely lying to me because it's all about the almighty dollar. It has nothing to do with the athletes, has nothing to do about the game football itself. It's all about the almighty dollar now these days. So I think it's hilarious. I think it's funny that these are jumping ship, and is it going to affect us? I'm sure it is, but down the road, I mean, we're still going to make numbers. Alabama's still going to win the SEC. That's the only reason why the SEC is so powerful is because of Alabama. I forgot LSU got lucky one year. Burrow had a magical year, but it's still going to be. It's still going to be Alabama, and then everyone else will be playing for second in the SEC.
What about futures of who could be next? Once this becomes official, can we expect futures of what teams and what leagues will expand or move next?
I think the Big 12 will probably go by because I would think some of these Big 12 teams might jump ship to maybe a Big 10, Pac-12. I don't think the Pac-12 will go away because you need something in the West Coast.
That's right.
I mean, they're not all going to jump to my favorite Mountain West, but I think if there's one conference in jeopardy, it has to be the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, what's the biggest brand left in the Big 12?
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, or from a hoop side, it's Kansas. We get that, but overall though, when you got to encompass the entire.
But if you're Kansas hoops, I think you make a phone call to the Big East.
Well, hey, that as silly as it sounds, you're not far off.
No, the
football team, they're not good. Where Kansas isn't going, boys and girls? The ACC.
No,
because Duke and North Carolina won't have any part of that.
No, which would be funny, but I mean, you never know. I've seen some weirder things happen these last couple of days between the NFL COVID rules. Michael Thomas now here in the Saints got a boo-boo, and he's probably going to miss some time off. So my Saints not making the playoffs in total season wins because I'm fading them all season long. Really looks good right now. So thank you, Michael Thomas, for being a wide receiver diva.
What just happened? How did we start talking about the Saints?
He's in New Orleans now.
I'm just saying nothing shocks me in football. That's all I'm saying. Nothing shocks me in the almighty football that we have to discuss 365 days a year here in the United States.
Oh, okay. I was like, do you need a pill or something? You okay? But you also have to. Raphael, I think we could probably all predict. Yeah, I mean, unless. I think we can predict that the Big 12 is going to dissolve itself unless they think it's smart to take flyers on the Central Floridas and the Boise States of the world and things like that and try to hang in there. You know damn well those programs would be interested. So we'll have to see. But if they do dissolve and these programs start venturing out into other places, and there's a report out today that the ACC down the road was very interested in contacting Oklahoma and Texas about joining the league, which props to Greg Sankey and the SEC for getting in front of that, protecting their self-interest. But my point is, well, how can you call yourself the ACC if you're going to invite Oklahoma and Texas? So if they restructure everything, if all these teams start going this, that, and the other, the SECs, the ACCs, the Pac-12s, and this, that, and the other. Eventually, you're going to have to start changing some names around because it's not going to be relevant anymore.
Yeah, just call it Power 1, Power 2, Power 3, Power 4, Power 5. I mean, whatever Alabama conference is, that's one, and whoever has Washington State or Colorado State or whatever, that's Power number 5. I mean, let's just call it what it is, because again, I cannot stress this, is no longer college football, period. No longer called college football. It has to be, if you're going to change conference names, then change it what it is, because it's no longer college football.
Do you think it's more likely that the Big 12 dissolves itself, or that they make an attempt to lure G5 programs? Or, I mean, do they have the stones to reach out to another couple of Power 5 programs out there and try to restructure that way?
If I was the Big 12, I would call Cincinnati, Central Florida, Boise State, teams that have made noise in a non-conference, because we all believe that the Power 5 is the best football ever made and ever played in college sports. So I would call those other teams that have made some significant boost in bowl games and recruiting wise. So I would call those three. They'll be my first 3 phone calls: Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Boise State.
What about?
I was gonna say, I know my bookie put out future odds already. Anything changing with any of this talk? I mean, are any lines changing, or is any money changing?
Did Alabama transfer to the NFL?
Not yet.
No, well then no, nothing's changed for us. I mean, because the money's still going to come in, and no, it has not until Saban and Alabama portray that they're going to go play in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Then nothing's changing for us. I mean, the money's still going to come in. Everyone still thinks their SEC team's going to beat Nick Saban and win it all, but no, nothing's changed for us.
Not in the East, unless you're South Carolina. It's the last East team to beat them. Can you believe that, Raphael? 2010.
I was just going to say, I think that was I almost said 2018.
2010. No, 2010. What about Nebraska? Any chance that they try to?
They still play football. I thought, are we 1990? Or are we in the 90s?
There's got to be a chance that they try. They're not happy with the Big Ten. So if this starts a movement of realignment again, you could definitely see Nebraska exploring a move somewhere. And if the Big 12 exists, a natural back home, they wouldn't
even have to call moving companies. Ohio State and Michigan will fly to Nebraska and help them pack.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point in Nebraska, but unless they're going to wear parachute pants in the 90s and go play football, they're irrelevant.
Yeah, I just I as a traditionalist of this sport, I hate to see some of the changes. I understand many of them, and I certainly understand this one. But I would just not like to see the Big 12 disappear. I really wouldn't. I would like to find it. And this might, again, Raphael, if you, this is your chance. If you're Central Florida, if you're Cincinnati, programs like that who have said, hey, we don't get a fair shake at this thing, the whole 9 yards. Here is your opportunity to convince somebody somewhere that you deserve to be in a power league. I mean, but again,
doesn't it disappear anyway. Even if you bring in Central Florida, and even if you bring in Cincinnati, Big 12 disappears anyway. You can call it whatever you want to call it. The league as a dominant league, whatever you want to call that level, it's gone.
I mean, but they haven't really been dominant. I mean, besides Oklahoma, I mean, they haven't really done anything. But I would say if let's say we'll throw in Nebraska, if they want to go back to the Big 12, you don't think the Big 10 will call Cincinnati and say, hey, you're always griping that OHIO is the king of all kings in your state. Why don't you come jump ship and come to play with the Big 10? So I would think that would be their first phone call.
Fascinating. So many conversations to be had about this. Just unbelievable. All right, Raphael on Twitter at VSI.Sports, mybookie.ag. If you've never done this, there's so many different offers that are available to you. 50% sign-up bonus up to your first $1,000 deposited if you'd like to do that. But again, if you head to MyBookie, they can kind of walk you through some of the things that are affordable to make you potentially some money. On real quickly on the sport of football, then I want to get to some Olympic stuff with you. Darren and I, in our Friday over-under buy and sell previews leading into the season, we look at the MyBookie.com MyBookie.ag, excuse me, over-unders on season win totals for the programs in our neck of the woods. Tennessee, Arkansas, Florida State, and Louisville are on the docket this week. How about the Vols, over-under 6 wins, in your opinion?
I would not be shocked if it's a push. I looked at them twice, both my power ratings. I haven't adjusted in them in a couple of weeks, but one of them had 7, one of them had 6. So I would not be shocked if it's a push.
How about Arkansas? They at the beginning of last year, Sam Pittman was a lot of folks' SEC Coach of the Year. Then they faded down the stretch, but this year maybe 6 wins is what we're looking at.
Yeah, I kind of like the under on this one. I know everyone's kind of upwards on them. A lot of money come in on the under, so I think it's 6 minus 170 last time I checked. So a couple of those bets were really nice size bets. So I'm gonna have to agree with those. I'm gonna probably go under. I think they only have 5 wins.
How about the Noles looking to turn it around down in Tallahassee, over under 5.5?
I like this over. I think they go 6 or 7. So I thought this should have been 6 when we first posted. And Notebook wanted to post 6. I just think they just wanted to take the over money and try to roll the dice, and maybe they fade away towards the end of the season. But I think 6, 7, that's what they end up. I like the over.
Florida State and Tennessee have something in common at quarterback. Both of them had a Milton transfer in this year. Joe Milton in Knoxville and Mackenzie Milton in Tallahassee. And then Louisville, over under at 6.5.
I always liked to think that they're going to always impress me and make that next step as a football conference, but no, I'm going to bet the under on this one. They always disappoint me. If I have an over bet on them and then they start off half and then they just actually play schools that are relevant and they just show them that maybe they're just a basketball school. So I'm going to eat my fried chicken and just watch them play under games.
Darren and I will give our over-unders on this coming up a little bit later in the program. All right, let's move to the Olympics, Raphael. They have already begun, but tonight on TV here in America, the opening ceremonies will commence for the 2020, whatever, however you want to reference it anymore, Olympics. So if you head to mybookie.ag, you've got odds up. Do you have odds on literally every event that's happening in Tokyo?
Pretty much. I mean, the last couple of nights have been very rough because some of the games, especially the soccers, have started at 2:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the morning. So, but I would say some of the bigger events that we take action on haven't really started. I mean, the basketball, men's and women, they start over the weekend. Women are huge favorites against Nigeria. I think they're minus 31. The total's 153.5. The men opened up a 14.5 point favorite against France, and now it's down to 11.5. I think if you liked France, you missed a good number. But if it goes, let's say, to 10 points, how do you not take Kevin Durant and the 3 guys who just got done playing the NBA Finals, who are actually going to start for the men's side? How do you not take them? So I'm going to wait to see how low this U.S. game goes. It starts at Sunday, I think at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. So we'll take tons of action on basketball, soccer, badminton, table tennis. We take a lot of action, and, of course, gymnastics. If the GOAT doesn't crush us, she's going to be heavy favorite in every event as she was. So hopefully she doesn't crush us, as like she's going to be crushing gold medals all day long.
Simone Biles is who you're referencing.
I thought her name was just GOAT. That's her name? Oh, I just thought it was just GOAT.
Maybe, but Dawn Staley might have something to say about that. She's a GOAT in herself, and she is coaching the U.S. women's basketball team, and Asia Wilson is a star on that. So obviously this matters in our neck of the woods as it pertains to South Carolina. How about the U.S. women? They going to win a gold medal?
You know, if I'm both men and women, you got to be very cautious. I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say negativity in both locker rooms, but I just don't feel like they're cohete in both sides, men and women. Some girls that got disrespected because they weren't selected, and they try to jump ship and go play for other countries, and then you get that's a lot of negativity. So, I mean, if I had to pull, I think the women will probably just dominate. They're like, minus 1,700 to win it all. But nothing shocks me anymore in this world we live in. So why not take Australia at 10-1 women, or Spain at 14-1, or France at 12-1? you're going to get some good value on that. But they should just dominate. I'm more worried about the men's than I am the women's. I'm more worried about the men's. And can we stop calling them dream teams? I'm sorry. There's only one dream team in men's.
That's
and
right.
I say the first women pro athletes was the best team. Stop calling them dream teams.
They're not dream teams. When you get beat like they've been getting beat, they're not dream teams.
No.
How about the women's soccer team, though? Because sometimes they have been a dream team, and then they just got smothered. There are interesting lines on their game tomorrow morning.
2.5 goal favorites.
And 1.5 goal in the first half, which is something that sort of caught my eye coming off of a loss. Are there odds now workable, I guess, for you? Would you jump on them to win the whole thing?
No, I wouldn't. I think they came in thinking they were going to skate all the way through to the gold medal, and then they got punched in the face. They didn't just lose 1-0 or 2-1 and maybe like give up a goal in the 91st minute or something. They got smacked 3-0 to a team that their former head coaches for them. Here's another one. I'm not sold on them. I think they beat up New Zealand. Was it tomorrow morning? I think they win that. But there's just so many other good teams that are playing in U.S. and they got a bullseye on their back. It's when you know you have a bullseye, it's a tough task to erase that and bring home a gold medal. Do I think they're going to win it? They should. They got the best talent, but the way they looked the other day, no, they won't win.
Yeah, there are some of the soccer experts out there, the ones that I would say I'm not a soccer expert, so the ones that I respect more than anybody, they question the age of this team. They say, look, talent, yep, no doubt about it, but can they sustain it through the Olympics at their age, the average age of all the ladies that are playing? We'll see. I don't know.
Just don't call my girl Alex Morgan old. You can call everyone else old. Just don't call her old.
I claimed her a long time ago. Sorry, pal.
Still looks good in the SI swimsuit, whenever the last one of her came out. So she's not old.
All right, 110.5 is the over/under for number of medals won by Team USA. Are they over or under?
I think they go over. I mean, I tell people ask me that, what about Mexico? What about Germany and all that? I would be cautious on putting future bets in Olympics because of the COVID issues that's over there. If you like an over, if you like an under, if you think there's a for sure thing, be very cautious when you're going to bet that type of, because we don't know if all these events are going to go through. Are they going to cancel it? No, they already had opening ceremonies, but I would not be shocked if they cancel events because of an outbreak. So be very, very cautious on betting futures when it comes to Olympics, because we just don't know what's going to happen. I think they're going to try to play it through, and if your event goes through, congrats. If you're having an outbreak in fencing or water polo or whatever, I'm sorry, we're going to cancel that event.
I just hope that no swimming is canceled. Swimming is my favorite sport to watch in the Olympics.
I love diving. Diving is my favorite. Well, diving, and of course, both men's and women's beach and indoor volleyball. I can watch volleyball and Olympic volleyball, both indoor and outdoor.
I'm excited for Phelps. I think he's going to add so much to the broadcast on NBC as a correspondent for U.S. swimming and swimming, whatever. All right. What about the?
I want baseball. Baseball, because he gave me a tip on baseball yesterday. So what's your free tip of the day on baseball?
I'm going to take the plus. I gave you plus money yesterday, and I'm going to give another plus money yesterday, because I always look for good value when it comes to baseball. And the Dodgers game over tonight against Colorado Rockies. Both pitchers have been can get lit up, and you figure the Dodgers are going to come in so PO about losing a game on a strikeout that was not called. And then they lose it. So I think they put their matters in their own hands and say, hey, we don't need a closer today. We're going to put up a heavy number on offense. So I would not be shocked if the Dodgers-Rocky game goes over the total. But make sure you either lay even money plus 105. I wouldn't lay anything higher than minus 105 on the total.
What about tomorrow night's NBA season opener?
NBA?
Well, they I know they just finished, but don't they start again tomorrow? The NBA never starts.
Yeah. So why? I've already told you about this. You cannot make fun of the NBA when we have to talk about 365 days of football. The NFL draft goes too long. I'd rather talk CFL than talk about NFL. That's still 2 months away when the CFL kicks off in less than 10 days. Rough Riders, baby, Rough Riders.
We'll let you run on that note, my friend. Enjoy Nolans. Hopefully, I know that over time you've had some health issues to deal with, but nonetheless, I still hope you've been able to enjoy some beignets and some of the other great grub down there.
I had an old fashioned for the first time in about almost 3 months the other day, and I'm not gonna lie, I put a tear down my eye when I first sipped. I kind of cried a little. I asked the wife for a hug because it tasted really good. So it was magical. It was I was only able to have one, but I asked the server to put a nipple on it because I wanted to savor it. I didn't want to just pound it down. So
there you go. Well, I'm sure you're living it up down there. And in the words of Ed Orgeron, go Tigers.
Oh no, I like this comment when they asked him about the sexual harassment. Oh, that was a good question.
Oh gosh, will you do it again next Friday with us at 12:30?
Always. I'm still waiting for that sandwich to come in the mail, though.
Oh yeah, well you're closer now. So
keep giving me free pick winners, and you're getting closer to that sandwich in the mail.
Another one. Paige Van Zandt wins today at bare knuckle fighting 19. Okay. I would lay the -$3 against Rachel Ostridge because she's only signed a 1-year fight contract for fighting this, and Paige lost her last fight, and they're giving her a lot of money, and she wants to keep on getting that money. So I think she easily beats up Rachel Ostridge tonight in BKFC 19.
There you go, Darren. Darren, you're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. Thanks, Raphael.
Take it easy, guys.
There you go. On Twitter at VSI.sportsmybookie.ag. Go Tigers. All right, got to hit a timeout. When we return, do you want to hear the deep stuff on OU in Texas? I can't literally think of anybody better to have this conversation with than Josh Pate. He joins us next on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Mike Morgan here for Gamecock Traditions. Baseball is going strong. You'll want to look sharp when you cheer on your Gamecocks. Under Armour, New Era, sideline hats, all with interlocking SC Baseball logo. 18 styles of $10 tees exclusively at Gamecock Traditions. Get on that email list by going to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and always be the first to know about new items as they arrive. You can also add a little Gamecock flair with house signs, garden flags, interior and yard decorations, only at one place, Gamecock Traditions.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Cloninger, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Pate and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PateandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Pate and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Pate and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Cloninger, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
live, loud, and online.
Oh, finally, the final hour of the work week has arrived for Darren and myself, and I can't wait to have a drink, just to be fully honest with all of you. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Make sure that you have downloaded our app, the JB and Goldwater app. It's free. Just plug it in your phone. You can watch and listen to us daily, and if you happen to miss something, guess what? You can go back and find us right there. Always head to JBandGoldwaterShow.com, across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, and individually, of course, on Twitter, at least for me, at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Thanks to David Cloninger with the Post and Courier and our good buddy Raphael Esparza there in that last segment, mybookie.ag. I love when we have this guy on the show. He is smarter than all of us, even though he won't say so. He is brilliantly spoken, and he's got one of the best programs going in sports, and that is the host of the Late Kick podcast with Josh Pate. It is, believe it or not, Josh Pate. Josh, what's up, brother?
Well, I'm shook. That's what's up. I am shook.
Happy Friday? No?
I mean, that's it. I could give you a long diatribe, and by the way, I'm happy to admit if I'm smarter than you. I'm just not sure I am. But I feel a little uncomfortable and a little unsure of myself in college football and everything in between right now. And add on top of all that, they shut down my gym here in Nashville without warning, so I had to just join the YMCA. And I have social anxiety, so I'm about to have to go in there for the first time, meet a bunch of new people, which I'm not crazy about. So listen, it's not been the best of weeks, but yet the show's done great traffic, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and the traffic's not going anywhere. It's about to be a traffic jam for you for quite some time. Football season's approaching, and here we are, right? Oh, it's media days. We'll get some topics. We'll roll with some things for the next couple of weeks, and then bam, we're all punched in the face with the Texas-Oklahoma news, Josh. All right, so I'm going to tee it up here, and then I'm going to let you do what you do, and you take it from there. So when this news first surfaced, one of the things that first came to mind with me to try to be level-headed about this instead of just spouting off what I think is best or not best or whatever is to try to think through the process as to how those are in charge are trying to think. And Mr. Pate, I think that we all understand in any walk of life, anything that we all do, and in part of this conversation in college athletics, we all have an interest to protect. And so in college athletics, if there was a czar or a commissioner or something of all of it, that person would look out for the best interest of college athletics. But we don't have one of those. So each league has somebody in charge who searches or looks or seeks out the best interests of that league. And then each school, they're looking for the best interest of their programs. And then fans, they have their own interests. And coaches, we know how it works. So in protecting the interests of the SEC, the future interests, Greg Sankey looks like him and his staff maybe be making a power play here to bring these two institutions into the scope of this league. What we also don't know is what we don't know. We have no idea whom has been knocking on the door of these programs over the years, what those conversations were like. We don't know any of that. So this is all unfolding before our eyes now. But as Roger Hoover pointed out yesterday on our program, generally we find out news when it's been going on for a while, a little bit later in the process. So in saying all of that, I leave the floor to you, my friend, to try to diagnose what you have digested over the last couple of days and where we're going from here.
Yeah, so it's really tough to say how I feel without sounding like I'm hating on Greg Sankey or just whoever or whomstever, as I'm trying to make work, whomstever is making the decision in the room. I understand the way of the world. I understand how markets work when you don't have regulators like amateurism in place. I get all that. If Sankey doesn't do it, someone else is going to do it. I understand all that. I give that great big caveat so I can say I really hate, in a lot of ways, the direction we're going. And the reason I hate it is because I did not grow up. Well, here's how I grew up. I grew up a fan of college football, then the conferences and teams behind college football. I always loved the sport. It's why I always, from a young age, aspired to do what I do for a living now, because I wanted to cover the sport. I love the sport, want to talk about the sport. And so I'm all about what's best for the sport. For a long time, and I'll take some blame on this too, for a long time, we kind of scoffed at these ivory tower bow type bow tie types that always clung to amateurism. And they always talked about the amateur model, and they always talked about the student athlete. The NCAA was always very careful in their language. And some people laughed at it because we all understood with a wink and a nod what it was really about. But I don't think anyone realized how important it was to maintain that veil of amateurism if you wanted to prevent what's happening now. See, you look in your life, when you go to work every day, you may work for a company that just got bought by Amazon, or the competitor just got bought by Amazon, and you look out there at the Amazons and the Googles and, the big corporations and the conglomerates of the world, and you say, wow, they're just buying up everything. Disney, they're just buying up everything. They can control everything. Well, that to a point had not happened in college athletics because of the veil of amateurism. You can't just run around and you can't just be outright and forthright about it, because you have to pretend at least, and everyone's in on the game, that it's about the student athlete, the educational experience. And so for a long time, we avoided what I call the Amazoning of college football because of amateurism. But when NIL, and the portal to a lesser extent, but really when NIL entered the equation, that's when these talks started. I was talking to someone yesterday about this. That's when it started, because even the folks participating in some of these talks, while they may not like the direction it's about to go, they understand they've got to go with the flow. And when you don't have the amateurism platform to stand on anymore, that's the only thing left that was standing between the biggest sharks in the ocean gobbling up whatever they want to. The big sharks, the SEC. The next biggest one's going to be the Big Ten. And that's why for everyone who just kind of moors themselves in the solace that all this will lead to is super conferences, we'll still have the super conferences. You may, but you're not going to have 4 of them. There aren't 4 super conferences worth of quality programs out there to be had. And I would suggest to you, there aren't 3, at least, to make up legitimate super conferences. One matches the other, matches the other. So my fear, and some people love this, but it's my fear is that we're probably headed down a road where college football takes on a lot more feel of the NFC, AFC, NFL model. Just 2 giant conglomerations instead of 3 or 4 conferences. And the idea of a regional sport, the idea of compartments in the Pacific Northwest and the Northeast and the Southeast, those days are gone. It's kind of like in the pro wrestling world when you watched what Vince McMahon did to the territories that used to exist in pro wrestling. And then they got gobbled up. And then you had 2 big boys in the 90s, and then one big boy gobbled up the other big boy. And now you got World Wrestling Entertainment. Product sucks, in my opinion, and no one watches anymore.
So I've heard now 3 or 4 times, Josh, the number 40 as of 40 teams just being randomly thrown around. And here we have these 40 teams, and maybe that's one division, if you will, the NFL, like you're talking about, if you will, and then spread out. Is that a number that you're hearing? Is that what you're saying when you're like, look, you can't have 3 conferences this size, because right away you're already over that 40 number. And when you said the Big Ten goes next, are they the next to dissolve or add?
No, I definitely think the Big Ten's the next to add. Big Ten as a brand is not dissolving anywhere.
No.
But what I think you're looking at is, I think that number's fair. I don't think it's, some settled number or anything like that. But I do believe that is roughly the pool you're looking at. And what's sad to me, again, as a college football fan, what's sad is you've got a lot of legitimate brands, legitimate programs that have been allowed to exist in this kind of lake that we've built. I look at college football sort of like a natural preserve within sports. I'm driving around Nashville as we speak, not fast, but I'm driving around Nashville as we speak. We have a zoo here. We have a natural preserve here too. Atlanta, you have them. Charlotte, you have them. And those are places that essentially we could do away with anytime we want to. We could kill every animal in there anytime we want to and not even bat an eye. We could do it before lunch. We choose not to because we think it's nice to have around. We as a society have decided we want this. And that's what sports had done with college football. And it basically created a giant dam. And the lake exists because of the dam. And a lot of programs, your Iowa States of the world, your Kansas States, Oregon State, sounds like I'm biased against state schools, but those kinds of programs could reasonably exist in this environment. When you tear the dam down, they cannot exist anymore. And those are programs, by the way, I'm not talking about Alcorn State. Those are programs in the past that you've seen flashes from. There have been legitimate moments They put good teams on the field. And I think when you throw that 40 number out there, it does not take a rocket scientist to figure out there are several names that that you've watched for a long time that will not be able to make that cut. If you think that's good, then that's your opinion. I don't think it's good.
Josh Pate, 1:15 on a Friday afternoon. Josh, would this conversation that we're having, even let's say you replaced Oklahoma and Texas with Oklahoma State and TCU, two very respected athletic departments out there, but they're not Oklahoma and Texas. Will we be having the same conversation?
I don't think you'd ever have the conversation to begin with because, it's like if I had 15 legs, would I be the best sprinter in the world? Well, I would, but I could never have 15 legs. I don't know that there would be any feasible scenario where someone made the preemptive move to take those caliber programs. They're, for lack of a better term, they're not worth taking. And so this is what precipitated everything. Here's the question to me. If you're Bob Bowlesby and you are the commissioner of the Big 12, I really would love to know how long he's had some indication of this. Because the most embarrassing feeling, if you're a power broker, if you're an official, if you're a decision maker, the most embarrassing thing is to have had something going on under your nose the entire time and you not be read in on it. And the reason I ask that is because I was going back over some of his comments just from this past week at Media Days, and he said some things that were kind of happenstance. I mean, they weren't in and of themselves really incriminating, but he said some things that would really lead you to believe this has surprised him as much as it surprised a lot of other folks. And that is not a good place to be.
No, it's a terrible place to be. I don't know what the future of Bob Bowlesby is. I mean, there have been rumors out there that his tenure as the commissioner of the Big 12 might be coming to an end at some point in time. You mentioned the Shark, then we all know who that is. It's Greg Sankey. There's nobody more powerful than him in college athletics. I know that we've talked about these scenarios of AFC like, NFC like, NFL style collegiate models and things like that, Josh. But is there any piece of you? I don't know how many conversations you've been having over the last few days. I'm sure quite a bit. But is there any piece of you that believes that the Big 12, as opposed to just essentially crumbling or dissolving in these programs going elsewhere to find new homes, that maybe they say, you know what, we're actually gonna use our stones here, and we're gonna call Cincinnati, we're gonna call Central Florida, and make G5 programs who believe they're worthy of being a Power 5 type program a part of us, and let's see what happens. Is there any part of you that thinks that's even possible?
No, and it's possible. Yeah, I won't speak for them, but I'll ask you guys. I think this is still too new for us to fathom the concept I'm about to mention, and I'm speaking extemporaneously right now, so if this is stupid, I don't want to take any blame for it. But let's just think this out loud. So take away Oklahoma, take away Texas, and think about what the Big 12 is at that point. Then I want you to think about what the AAC is, and tell me that the AAC doesn't look every bit as attractive a TV product at that point as the Big 12. Like, why would the Big 12 have the cachet to be plucking conference programs from a place that the future probably favors more so than the Big 12?
What if they merged? What if they just merged?
Still not as powerful.
Well, what if they did? I mean, all of this is obviously based on putting yourself in best position for your next TV contract. What kind of TV product is that? And before anyone even answers that in their own mind, also keep in mind, if you're adding Texas and OU to the SEC's pie, that is going to rework an already reworked TV deal for them. And one of the big problems behind the scenes that folks in the industry are talking about right now is you can throw out all of these scenarios about who the Big Ten's going to go grab or the Pac-12 or what's the Big 12 going to do. You've got to understand how much TV money is about to be sucked out of the room by the SEC, and then ask yourself what's going to be left to pass around, which players are going to be left at the table. You don't figure that part out at the end. You figure that part out at the beginning, and then you reverse engineer the answer with what teams are we going to bring to the table.
All right, Josh. So in saying all of that, one of the driving forces of an expanded college football playoff is money. I think we all know that. So what does this mean for? I mean, theoretically, and we don't have exact timelines. 2025 is maybe a target date for Oklahoma and Texas. However, they can buy their way out of that grant of rights deal, from what I'm understanding here. So this could move their timeline up to enter the SEC maybe in the next couple of years, even if they wanted that. But we also have this other big situation ongoing, which is the college football playoff. And right now, depending on who you talk to, it's minimum 3 years down the road. What does this maneuver mean for the college football playoff itself, as far as securing that 12-team field? Do we have another conversation about expanding it even more, decreasing it? What do you think?
I think their field is the right size, and I believe, this is my feel, I don't know this, but I believe there were enough people read into what was coming that were involved in those playoff negotiations that this model that's been proposed was put together with this new landscape in mind. For instance, when you heard Greg Sankey and the SEC were never going to sign off on an expanded playoff, well, that was false. What came to be realized was they were only going to sign off on an expanded playoff if there were just as many at-large spots available as there were spots for conference champs, which means, allegedly, 6 and 6. Well, now it makes a whole lot more sense when you understand what the SEC could be in the future. But my question is, I don't know that there's anybody. The most read-in person on this entire ordeal, I don't think knows the outcome, because I don't think it's knowable. There are too many variables and moving parts. So we're sitting here talking about a model, again, that hasn't been agreed upon. So we're talking hypothetical, obviously. But, I mean, we're throwing around models that allow 6 spots for the 6 highest-rated conference champs. Are we going to have 6 conferences out there that are worth being talked about within this whole framework? I don't even know how all that works, which is probably a good thing, as it turns out that they haven't agreed upon a model yet, because that thing should be written in very, very light pencil right now.
Wow. I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard to. I was speaking earlier, Josh, about self-interest and things like that. What is it the best interest of this school and this league and this and the other? At the end of the day, it all points to one thing, and that's money. I mean, you've mentioned multiple times TV contracts. You're dead on. You're spot on. It's money. I mean, like, Texas isn't back. We all think they've got a shot at it maybe with Steve Sarkisian. But, I mean, from an athletic standpoint, speaking specifically to football here, if you're Oklahoma, you're nuts to want to be in the SEC. If you're Texas, you're nuts to want to be in the SEC. But it has nothing to do with wins and losses. It has everything to do with how much money can we bring in annually in TV revenue and whatever else comes along with that.
Well, that's basically it. And look, people always say that. A lot of people always say, well, we all know this is about money. Well, yeah, we all do. But you say, I'm not talking about you guys in particular, but
Sure.
I will talk to a hypothetical person and they'll tell me that. And I'll say, okay, you speak so pejoratively like that, but yet you're also waving the pom-pom for all these proposals that they put forth that you claim are rooted in financial interest. Like, how many people did we hear breathlessly rooting on the expanded playoff and breathlessly rooting on this measure and that measure? So you can have an opinion on it, but don't be sitting here telling me, we all know this is about money, but then sit there and cheer on every measure that's put forth that's all about money.
Right. I totally agree. That is spot on, Josh. What is most important moving? Look, NIL's in place. It's a cluster, but it's in place. I mean, everybody's got different rules. I'm not saying specifically to the kids. I'm just saying that, different states, different rules. Nobody really knows what's going on. Nobody knows who's policing this. Nobody is. We've got maybe super conferences coming or whatever. We don't really know. What does this sport need, Josh? Where can we find leadership, and how do we find it?
Well, the first thing you have to look at, the first person you're going to look at is Greg Sankey. I mean, that's where you're looking.
Yeah.
Now, how you feel about him today, notwithstanding, that is absolutely the most powerful guy in the room. I want you guys to consider this, and people listening, consider where we're at for a second. Greg Sankey, I think most of us agree, is the most powerful guy in college sports right now. But I don't think people realize how wide the gap is between him and number 2. Bob Bowlesby is in the twilight of his career as the Big 12 commissioner. the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 have brand new commissioners. And so there really is no close second. So for better or for worse, and I happen to think highly of him, but for better or for worse, Greg Sankey's the guy. So you got to look to him. Now, the next decision he's going to be heavily involved in is deciding what the governing body is going to be over this new world. Because right now, you still think NCAA, but if you're doing away, for all intents and purposes, with the amateurism model, and you've got such a tail wagging the dog situation when it comes to TV money as opposed to the old classical college amateurism model, well, the next question is going to be, why in the world would these new mega entities even need an outside governing body that's already admitted itself that it needs to cede some power back? The NCAA is viewed internally as being on its last leg anyway. In fact, not even internally. Everyone views it as that. I think the next question is going to be, are we going to build our own governing body? Are we going to police ourselves? So then if the answer to that is no, you got a whole set of circumstances you got to deal with. But if the answer is yes, that's when you start to ask that question you just asked. Where do we look for leadership? What does leadership look like? Who enforces what? What do we want enforced? Do the things that matter right now matter in the future? Like, I know it's very easy to sit there and draw up hypothetical maps of new divisions. That's not what conference realignment's about. The stuff we're talking about right now, that's the nuts and bolts of conference realignment.
Absolutely. I mean, we're getting to a point, Josh, where the names of these conferences don't matter. I mean, Texas is not the southeastern United States, neither is Missouri. And, you know, there are reports out there that I think I saw it on ESPN earlier that the ACC at some point in time was planning to make some contact. Maybe they did, and we just don't know because we don't know what we don't know, to both the Sooners and the Longhorns programs. That has nothing to do with the Atlantic coast. I mean, it's evolving quickly. You know, we do have a football season to play this year, Josh. I guess that's exciting, right?
Oh, I'm jacked about it. I'm ready to stop talking about this stuff. It's about, what are we sitting at right now? We're sitting on July. My calendar won't come up.
23rd.
So we got camps opening up in 2 weeks. At that point, I will go into a clamshell on my show, and I will talk about South Carolina's right guard battle before I talk about conference expansion.
There you go. We'll leave the OU Texas stuff behind us because guess what? Everything that we've just been talking about is going to change probably in about 20 minutes. And then we'll get back on Monday and have a whole new show to have to build. But let me, if you don't mind, I know you got to run, but let me ask you a specific question. COVID kind of related, well, specifically related actually to COVID, but also related to performance. And I'll ask this question as it pertains to the SEC simply because of the history of this league and kind of what it was built on and what it's been most proud of on the field. What do you expect more improvement, or what side of the ball do you expect to be more improved this year without what we went through last year with COVID? Offense or defense? I mean, because you could look back at the numbers defensively specifically and say, wow, nobody in the SEC, and for that matter, pretty much the rest of the country, played defense, it seemed. And then you can also look at some offensive numbers and say, yeah, these guys are generally much better, and they weren't very good. But you have to look deep in these programs to figure out why. Did they get to practice together? Who opted out? Who didn't opt out? And all those type things. So what side of the ball do you think will be most improved this year, offense or defense?
It's easily defense for me. The reactors always improve with more prep time. I mean, defense, by its definition, even though you get coached to play instinctive and don't react, just read, it is a reactionary side of the ball. I mean, someone else is dictating what you do, play to play, in other words. Whereas offense, I mean, you rep that stuff, you are deciding, you're dictating the terms of the play. And so that's to break it down on a second grade level. I hope everyone was able to follow that. So if we advance to middle school level, I think that combined with unprecedented percentages of returning production this year, which we'll never see again. We'll never see a year like last year, thankfully, and we'll never see a year like this one coming up either for different reasons again. And you combine that with a third thing, maybe we advance to high school at this point, look around at the ACC's returning quarterback production as opposed to the SEC. In the SEC, you can have a perfect storm of maybe even some people being fooled into thinking defense is back long-term and back as we clearly defined it in the past. And it may not quite be back. What you may have is this perfect, here comes the word of the week, perfect confluence of events that give you, I don't know, maybe a 23-17 game every now and then. Wouldn't that be something?
Absolutely. I would enjoy seeing that. I bet Nick Saban would like that as well. But I'll tell you what, man, Nick Saban has hit the nail on the head about literally everything he's talked about over the last God knows how long, decade or so. Josh, so give us some news, notes, and nuggets on what's to come on the Late Kick with Josh Pate over the next few days.
Well, over the next few days, we are about to move to 3 shows a week live at night. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. We did about as good a traffic last night on the live show as we would ever do during the season. I think you can guess why. And so that's been fun. I mean, it's been tedious, but it's been fun. So the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel is where you can find that. Podcast is doing really good numbers. The Late Kick, wherever you get your podcast. And I can be found once in a while, every hour, on Twitter and Instagram at Late Kick Josh.
It's the best show out there, Josh. It's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. Really looking forward to your coverage of this, and certainly your coverage actually of the football side of things. You know, where you throw that thing and you catch it, you run with it, and you hit people who have it. All those type things that they actually do on the field. Hopefully, we'll catch up with you here pretty soon when camp gets started, and certainly we'll talk to you before the season. Thank you so much, my friend, and have fun in Nashville. Hey, do you ever run into Kirk Herbstreit up there? Where does he live?
He lives about 3 minutes down the road from my studio, of which I'm sitting in the parking lot of right now.
Well, you know, pass along our best to him.
Let me rephrase. He is not in the parking lot with me. I can faintly see his mansion down the road.
Oh, he's got some good-looking dogs that can sometimes run around on Instagram too.
You know, just whenever you talk to him, just tell him we said hello, and we really, you know, if he ever wants to use our content or whatever he needs on game day, we don't mind. It's no big deal.
Yeah, that will be my excuse to trespass on his property today. No, let me deal with a message from someone else. I'm just the courier.
Yeah.
Just put it in a bottle, Josh. It won't be any big deal. Hey, brother, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Later. There you go. Josh Pate is just one of the best out there that covers the sport of college football, if not the best. I'll be honest with you. He is super, and he uses a lot of words that I don't know sometimes.
He's unique, too. Not only is his approach refreshing and very succinct. I mean, he knows how to deliver the message, but he's unique in how he does it. And he's unique in how he's thinking, too. I mean, he's not one that's jumped on the bandwagon. He has hated the expansion of the playoffs from day one, and from before day one, from before people were talking about it, he's hated that. And it's consistent, you know, right into this. So he's a rising star is what he is.
I think, yeah. And, you know, to kind of to go or fall in line with his feelings of an expanded college football playoff, which, by the way, yes, this is all beginning to make a little bit more sense now as to maybe why 12 teams was the number, and nobody could say that. Don't know that they wanted it to come out the way that it did in the middle of media days with a breaking news report like that. But in saying that, I think one thing, and I've mentioned this before, Darren, you and I often talk about being traditionalists in the sport of baseball. I'm a traditionalist in the sport of football as well. And just personally speaking, and I've said this before and I'm saying it again, it hurts to think, and I truly believe that the future of college football is going to be without bowls. There will be bowl games that will be a part of the college football playoff, but at some point in time, the bowl system's gone. And I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow or in 5 years or in 10 years. I don't know when it will be, but it will disappear. I mean, as changes continue to happen, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. I mean, especially some of these lower tier bowls, that they'll disappear, Darren. They're not going to be needed anymore. They're not going to be valuable. Mm-hmm. They might be valuable to the kids. They might be valuable to the teams. They might be valuable to some of those fan bases. I bet you Central Michigan, I'm not being facetious, I'm being serious. I bet you Central Michigan would really love to have another invite to the Bahamas Bowl. But they won't be valuable to TV networks. They won't be valuable to the sport, and they'll go by the wayside. I've had a lot of great bowl experiences in my life. I could have a whole show on the great times I've had with family and friends going to see Carolina play football wherever, down in Florida or wherever it is. And we're not going to have that one day. It's going to be gone.
Yeah, so that doesn't bother me because we had different experiences with that. Like, that's the way it's going. And I think by the time we get to that point, you'll have had enough time, everyone will have, to really digest that. Attendance is already down. Kids sometimes don't want to play in those games anyway. How much money are they actually making if it's not for these TV contracts? Not a lot, because the TV contracts are what sustains basically the bowl system right there. So is it going to go away? How you know it now? Yeah. But if you get something like what has been thrown around, I heard Dabo Sweeney mention it yesterday. I think that was the first time I heard, what if, let's say, 40 teams? That was out of Dabo's mouth, and he's not just, speaking without knowledge of things. That was the first time I heard it. Then I heard it a couple more times today, this 40-team number, generalized thinking of number. So if you separate that, here's your championship for, let's call it colleges, NFL, right? Then you lower it down, and then you have a 16-team playoff lower down. Maybe you can somehow navigate certain FCS programs getting up to the G5 level. Who knows? Somewhere in that middle gap, there's something else. And maybe those bowl games are played to a smaller level, to a playoff type of level. But look, the sport's changing. There's no way you can get in front of this and stop it now, because that train is rolling. I mean, it's going like down the side of a mountain. You can't get in front of it and stop it now. There's too much money out there now. And I thought his point about what happens once the SEC reshapes its TV deal, when those dollars go there, how much is left? What's left to spread around?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you think about the trickle down effect, Darren, if you're going this way of major mega conferences or leagues or whatever they are, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm not specifying exactly the number of teams or how it'll look, but if you're going that way, and the playoff is going to be all that matters at some point in time, then you are siphoning out a segment of the sport, which is going to be a large majority of group of 5 teams. Mm-hmm. And so you'll have the big boys, the billions of dollars that are tied into their leagues and TV contracts in this 12-team playoff, or whatever it ends up being. You'll have the FCS level guys, the D3 level guys, all those dudes down there who have a playoff system every year. And then you're going to have this group that's stuck in the middle. And it's going to be the Miami of Ohio's, and it's going to be the Troys, and it's going to be, those type programs that are basically going to have a decision to make. Do we just hang on and just basically play our 11 or 12 games every year and then go home? Or do we say, you know what, boys and girls, we need to figure out what we're going to do here on this level of football, because it's clearly not that level of football. And maybe we branch off and we go do our own playoff system and that type thing.
That is what Dabo Sweeney referenced yesterday, almost to a T. He basically said, if you got these 40 teams here, because what Dabo is championing, and it's impressive how much support he has within the ACC as a guy who's not just looking out for his team and his brand, but really the game of football and the players of the game of football, not just Clemson. There was a really good article in The Athletic about that this morning. But what his point is, I don't need the guys playing all these extra games. So if you have this break off, of course, Clemson would be in that group, then maybe their scheduling is a little bit different prior to getting to this 16-team playoff. And maybe if the group below that doesn't have a 16-team playoff, maybe they can play an extra game or two in the regular season. So him pointing that out was pretty much right along the lines of what you're saying here. There will be different schedules. There will be different models of how the different levels will go about it. The whole irony here, to me, folks championing like, we got to expand the playoffs and make it more fair. I get not more fair, but give more folks a chance at the championship. The exact opposite is about to happen.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest. I mean, you just it's a lot to digest. You're right. I mean, in theory, yes, you're expanding it. So at some point in time, other teams will have created some type of parity to where they're knocking on the door to get in there and things like that. But you're right, Darren, for the entire, if you're looking at the whole sport, the entire fishbowl, all of its contents, yeah, it's clamping up to this group here and then that group over there. Well, what do we do? I don't know. What do you, whatever you want to do.
You figure it out because you're not part of our club anymore. So
yeah,
you go figure that out.
Yeah, and again, on that, I know we got to get a break and we got some over-unders to get to in our buy or sell segment coming up. But if you are some of the elites at the G5 level, and forgive me, Coastal fans, but you're not yet. You had a great year, but it hasn't been anything near consistent like what Central Florida has proven to do over the years. I'd say the last 7 or 8 years. Boise State, who's still, by the way, one of the best examples. Look what Cincinnati has been able to do. Those type of programs.
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of those, now is your time to strike. Now is your time to strike. And there's a couple of ways to look at it too, Darren. Like if you're like, hey, look, we're Cincinnati, we should have a shot to get into the college football playoffs 4 teams, let alone a 12-team playoff. Or Central Florida, their argument a few years ago, or if Boise State is able to recreate, what they've been able to do a couple of times. Now you're going to have that opportunity. Hey, Big 12, wait, before you dissolve, listen to what we have to offer. And then on top of that, you're also going to have an opportunity to get in front of other leagues who may be looking to pick from the Big 12 and say, but hold on here. Hold on. If you're Central Florida, right, and the ACC says, okay, well, Texas and OU are going to the SEC, let's give TCU a call. But wait a second. Hey, we're in Orlando, so we're in your footprint. Look what our football program has been able to accomplish. Look what our baseball program, our basketball, whatever. Look at our enrollment. It's like 70,000 or something now down there in Orlando. So make your pitch. And this, you have an opportunity. Here's your sales job. Like before other teams go pick apart the Big 12 or before the Big 12 dissolves itself, if you're the AD or the president at Cincinnati or at Boise State or at Central Florida, and I'm sure there's other examples out there I'm just omitting at this point in time, this is where you're gathering your details and going, look. We need to show you why we should be in your league and make the pitch, except for the SEC now, to all the other ones.
I'd say this.
Figure it out.
I'd go if I was an AD and a president of a group of 5 school right now, I'd do the opposite. I would be holding right now because I don't want to go join that Big 12 right now. Once Texas and Oklahoma leave, it can't be the relevancy of whatever power leagues are going to look like. The SEC and whoever else. That, the Big 12 and what's left of it and however it restructures itself, that's not going to be on that level. So if I am a group of 5 power right now, I don't jump there. I maybe sit around and wait at a little, try and gather some information because maybe I'm the king of the top of the next level down. Because if I'm never going to compete with that 40 number, if whatever random number, if I'm never going to compete there, how do I make sure I get the most of the slice that I can eat?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an evaluation period for yourself. I think is probably the common ground between what you and I are both saying here, because if you're Boise State, and I don't care if the Big 12 loses Oklahoma and Texas or not, and you're able to tie yourself into the Big 12, if you're Boise State, you're still going to make more money than what you're making now. But in saying that, to your point, if the future says that this group of teams is going to go do something different and you could be the top dog there, and then financially that is much more rewarding, then obviously that might be the better choice for you. I keep saying this word. I've said it a bunch over the next couple of days. You might as well get used to it. What is in the best interest of each league, of each program, of each school, all those type of questions? People are going to start asking those questions now. And then that's how a lot of this will be reshaped moving forward, Darren. But if the Big 12 does say no, let me be clear, we're not dissolving. We'll move forward with these 8 teams if that's what it takes, and it's just going to be these 8 teams. And here's why we're standing firm, and it's a financially lucrative opportunity for Cincinnati. Then they'd be idiots to not do that. You know what I mean? It'd be dumb. You would want to go knock on that door and say, well, here's what by the way, we can bring you a Cincinnati TV market, which happens to be kind of large these days, and things like that. So I don't know. This is all speculation. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to one simple statement. It's changing. It's changing quick, and you better be ready.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it, my friend? Who'd have thunk it, man? Well, yeah. This, that, and the other, whatever. All right, we'll hit our final timeout on this Friday afternoon. When we return, a couple of quick nuggets from last night's South Carolina Football Hall of Fame inductions up in Greenville, South Carolina. And Darren and I will look at our buy or sell teams this week, 2 out of the SEC, 2 out of the ACC, their over-unders, and just how many wins they might have on their schedules here in 2021. Right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with 0 down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike 2! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. Well, we're not going to be working here in just a little bit. Darren and I will be off the air in 10 minutes. Last night in Greenville, the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame inducted 5 new members as part of the 2020 class, even though it's also 2021. But it was last year's class. There's not a class for this year. They're going to skip that, and then they'll have a 2022 class. And I think in the next month or so, we should have that list of potential future members. But last night, former Clemson quarterback Charlie Waters inducted into the Hall of Fame. The late Willie Scott, of course, one of the true legends in this state as well. How about Art Baker? Man, guy who's coached at Clemson, Carolina, Citadel. I mean, you name it. Art Baker, one of the great ones
around here.
What's that?
He's a legend around here.
A legend, absolutely. A great person as well. Low Country native and NFL veteran Robert Porcher inducted last night as well from UG, South Carolina. I always find it funny when people say Robert Porcher from Huger, South Carolina. Nope. That's not the way it is. But Robert Porcher. And then Steve Spurrier inducted last night as well. He had a chance to meet Kevin Harris. That was pretty neat. He stole the show, as he always does, he asked pretty much anything, and he had some pretty funny stuff to say here and there, and talked about North Carolina and wanting him and this, that, and the other, and Clowney, and talked about his photo that Beamer recreated and dancing in Lattimore's room and all that type stuff. But it was great to see all that video from up there in the upstate last night, Darren. All incredibly deserving of that honor, and congratulations to all of them.
Did you see if anyone asked him about his conversation with Beamer after that picture? Did that come up? Was there a conversation?
No, I didn't see anything like that. I haven't seen anything like that.
No, neither have I.
But I'm sure they've talked. I know they've talked.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, this, that, and the other. Yeah. See what happens out there. I know that he's very excited about Shane at South Carolina. So the Olympics are set to go tonight. 7:30 NBC is when the opening ceremonies will get underway. All right, it's time to buy or sell the future of 4 teams this week, 2 SEC, 2 ACC teams. We're going to do this every Friday leading into football season. Last week was week number 1. Buy or sell is presented in part by Jeff McCarriger, Carolina One Real Estate here in the Low Country. If you're coming to town, if you're leaving town, if you know somebody that is or is coming or going or whatever it may be, Jeff.McCarriger at CarolinaOne.com. His phone number, 843-834-7455. He's a great guy. Obviously, he's a broadcaster as well, one of Darren's best friends out there. And Jeff is also excelling in the real estate market here in our neck of the woods. Again, Jeff.McCarriger at CarolinaOne.com. All right, this week, buy or sell. We'll start in the ACC, and we'll start with Louisville. The Cardinals, it's 6.5. These odds brought or dished out by MyBookie. Of course, we spoke earlier with Raphael Esparza with MyBookie and asked him what he thought as well. I'll tell you, Darren, I actually think fairly similarly to Mr. Esparza in much of this. But 6.5 here with Louisville. Last year, 3-7 were the Cardinals in the ACC, 4-7 overall. So I've got them over. I've got them at 7. This is I think Raphael and I differentiate a little bit on this. I've got them at 7 if they can. This is it's like, yeah, I get it. No kidding. If they could just be a little bit more consistent. Here's the thing. When last year there were maybe a game or two where they could really put it together on both sides of the football. Like they had some pieces, and then they had some pieces, and then rarely did offense and defense come out and do the same thing on the same night. So, but they are a little bit more experienced. Malik Cunningham's back at quarterback, and he's pretty good. So I feel like that'll add some consistency. I'm going to give them 7. I kind of looked at the schedule and I said, all right, well, I can pick out 5 and probably 6, and I think they'll get another one somewhere. I'm going to go with 7 and 5. I think Scott Satterfield, historically, year 3 is pretty good for him. It was at App State. I'm going to give him 7.
I'm under. I just won't buy the here we go again. Here comes Louisville to challenge around the top of the league until I see it. So if I'm going to use my money to buy over or under, I'm not going to buy an over here for Louisville that right now is about a 50-50 season. So I'm going under, and I'm on a wait and see path right now with Louisville. There just isn't enough there to convince me right now for me to throw my money right out at them.
I think that's very fair. I would say this, of these 4, I would have the least confidence in that pick of over at 7. But I'm going to go at 7. So I think that's the most you and I have differentiated over the last 2 weeks, by the way. All right, Florida State, 5.5 is their number. Over under 5.5 wins this year. I'm over FSU, and I'm putting them right at 6. The competition at quarterback's interesting. Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton. Obviously, we'll talk more about that as we get closer to the season. Milton transferring in from Central Florida. Let's also remember, speaking of transfers, that former Gamecocks Keir Thomas and Jamie Robinson are down there. Mike Norvell was very active in the transfer market this year. So I'm going to go over with those guys. I'm putting them right at 6. The one win that I will not give them on their schedule is Clemson. Dabo Swinney, I think, still is a little ticked from what happened last year with that trip to Tallahassee, not being able to play with the COVID stuff. So I think when Florida State comes to town on Halloween weekend, they're going to get the crap beat out of them, to put it bluntly. But I'm going to give them 6 wins on the season.
I think Florida State is going to be a vastly improved team than what we saw. I can give them right now very comfortably 5. So I'm very comfortable going over 5.5. Are they going to get at least one more win from the 5 that I'm very comfortable in giving them, which would be Jacksonville State, Wake Forest? I'm putting Louisville into that group, Syracuse, UMass. Do I think there's another win or 2 in there? Yeah, I do. So I'm going over for Florida State.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. 6.
Yeah, if not more.
How about Arkansas? I've got them under 6. I've got them at 5. Offensively, they should be okay. They return their best wide receiver. They return their leading tailback. They're returning their quarterback. So there are pieces there on the offensive side of the football. When they played defense last year, Darren, they only won 3 games. But when they did play defense, they won.
Mm-hmm.
When they didn't play defense, they got their rear ends kicked. Built-in wins clearly with a non-con schedule. So there's a couple of them in there. But I don't see them getting bowl eligible. Not quite yet, like Sam Pittman. But I think Mississippi State and Ole Miss are certainly improved as well. And even though they beat both of them last year, let's remember that. But I'm going to go under 6 with the Razorbacks. I've got them at 5.
Yeah, it's hard to get them over 6 because I'm really confident in like 3 or 4 of their games. So until you see them out there on the field, until you see that next step that Sam Pittman took, we give Sam Pittman a whole lot of credit for Arkansas for last year. At the end of the day, they weren't that good. They just weren't awful like everyone expected them to be.
That's
so
right.
I'm under where they are right now because, they don't exactly play in an easy division.
That's, I think, perfectly said, as a matter of fact. Yeah, they weren't that good, but they weren't terrible. They competed in a lot, and they should have had 4 wins. They should have beat Auburn, but the officials screwed that up. So, but I've got them at 5 this year. And then finally, Tennessee, the over-under sits at 6. And just like Raphael said earlier, I've got them right on the dot. I've got them at 6. What's most interesting, obviously, in addition to the Heupel news as their new head coach, is the quarterback. I don't want to call it a problem, but the quarterback situation. They got 4 dudes. And Harrison Bailey was the leader coming out of spring practice. I don't know that you could say that anymore. Brian Moore got in there a bunch last year. He's a guy they really like. Joe Milton transferred in from Michigan, and Hendon Hooker transferred in from Virginia Tech. Now, Josh Heupel will be the coach, and whoever wins out will probably be okay. But first year under Josh Heupel, I don't know that the defense, they've lost Henry To'oTo'o and a couple of other guys, lost Eric Gray, lost their best offensive lineman. Eric Gray, of course, their top running back. They both went to Oklahoma. I don't know that the defense is going to be able to catch up to what the offense is going to try to accomplish. I don't know that the offense will be crisp and clean in year 1. I'll give them 6 wins. I think they will get to 6 wins and be bowl eligible, but not more than that.
My hunch, for no really good reason here, and you see the preseason poll, they're picked 4th there in the East. My hunch is over. My hunch is over because I think they have to be over for Josh Heupel. I'm pretty sure they have to be because just from I'm coming in, Tennessee Vols, I got to get this fan base back to where they expect them to be, even though the talent might not be equal to that. This is a big year for Josh Heupel. I'm going to say he figures out a way to navigate maybe one more spot up in that Eastern standings. I'm going to say he figures out a way to get 7.
Okay. And there you go. Buy or sell. Brought to you by our friend Jeff McCarriger at Carolina One Real Estate. Jeff.McCarriger at Carolina1.com. Debbie Antonelli will be inducted tonight into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. Debbie, we love you. Congratulations. We'll catch up with her very soon. Brett McMurphy also reporting Texas and Oklahoma would like to be in the SEC in 2022.
I'm telling you, it's going to happen much sooner than later. This money, it talks. Going to move.
I think we're going to have a lot to talk about on Monday. It's National Vanilla Ice Cream Day.
Put your sauce on it and go eat it.
There you go. Thanks to Darren Goldwater always. Thanks to Josh Pate, Raphael Esparza, and David Cloninger. Thanks to all of you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you at noon on Monday on the JV and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.